And the insurance company investigated the fire, and they said, we don't find any evidence of an arson. The insurance company paid on it, and everything was fine, which explains why Mr. Dove was on the premises, because he was fixing it up from this previous fire, right?
Yes, sir.
So nobody says anything about it, and everybody is fine about that. It has nothing to do with the case. Lo and behold, right before the trial, Darian Dove, the convicted felon, the drug addict, who's got an alcohol problem, has a problem with the truth, gets on the witness stand at the preliminary exam and says, I don't know anything about another fire, right? So nobody's thinking about it. That's fine. He writes a letter to the sentencing judge, Judge Parker, on his case. And Darian Dove is upset. What is he upset about? He's upset that he's in jail. Mario has posted bond. And in this letter, he says Mario hired him to do this other fire too, which was a complete lie. And there was no evidence to support it. On the day of trial, the prosecutor gets up and says, we want to use this evidence in violation of all of Michigan law, all of the Constitution that says you got to give them notice. You can't spring this on at the last minute. And the defense lawyer says, I don't know anything about this prior fire other than the fact that, Darian Dove now claims that Mario paid him for that as well. That became a critical part of the prosecution's case, because what they could show is a pattern of behavior that was, in their theory, supportive of their case. That was absolutely false. So here's where prosecutors and the police have an obligation to vet their witnesses to find out if there was any evidence to support it, or is he just mouthing off and lying? And that's exactly what happened. They had him under oath. They had him under oath before saying he didn't know anything about any previous fire. But that didn't stop them from putting him on the stand and lying about it. Yes.
If that was the means by which the fire was started, what was the gasoline still doing on the floor?
So what happens is when an accelerant is used to start a fire, often there are remnants left in debris, like the floor. So fire investigators, what they do, they go to a fire. They're looking for any evidence of an accidental fire or an intentional fire. Accidental fire might be like an electrical outlet. They can go to the electrical outlet and look and see that it's burned up, right? So that's pretty simple. If they can find a pattern on the floor, for example, of an accelerant. So if you were to pour gas on the floor, it's going to leave a pattern on the floor, right?
Yes, sir.
Once it's lit, it's going to burn on the floor.
Yes, sir.
They didn't have that in this case. They had no pattern to show that somebody actually took gasoline and spread it on the floor, because the building was so burned up. So all they could do is what they did in this case is they pick up pieces of debris. So they pick up pieces of the floor, right? Pieces along the wall and on the wall, and then they take those and they put it in an evidence tag, in a plastic bag, and they send it to the Michigan State Police, a laboratory, and they say, check this out. Can you find any evidence of an accelerant? And in this case, they found, according to the lab, an accelerant, but only on the floor, not on the wall.
Right.
So that the investigator for the department said, well, the fact that we found an accelerant on the wall and along the wall was indicative of an intentional fire, because they were trying to make the building collapse, which was, in my mind, totally absurd. So this is what we did. We get our own investigator, right? we want our own expert because we're not going to accept what they say. And he says, wait a minute, the only accelerant that was found was on the floor, and that's consistent with an accident. And we say, listen, give us the samples ourselves. We want to test these samples, and we want to know exactly where the accelerants were. And guess what happened? Prosecutor's office says, we can't find it.
Oh.
We don't know where any of this evidence is. And I says, well, you have evidence tags. Anytime that a piece of evidence is taken into possession by the police department, they give it an evidence tag number, and they put it in a sealed envelope or plastic bag. So I give the prosecutor the evidence tag numbers that the fire department used in this case to convict Mario. And you know what those evidence tags show? They were connected to a knife and a gun. And they said, oh, we can't find this evidence. We don't know where it is. Well, how can you do that? How can you run a police department when the evidence tag, all that stuff has to be documented, and we ask for it to see it ourselves, and it turns out being something totally different, unrelated to the case.
And it should, I mean, you can't get rid of evidence because what if the person wants to appeal? That evidence has to be there.
Yeah, they're obligated to hold on to it and preserve it. So when we went to the court and asked them so that we could test it ourselves, because we're not going to take their opinion for themselves, doesn't exist according to them anymore.
Well, that alone should be enough to cast that case out. I mean, how are you holding a man in jail or in prison, and you don't? He can't appeal if you can't give him the evidence that you claim you had.
Exactly, and that we have a right to do our own independent investigation. So in these cases, it's so important not to take the police departments or the fire departments' investigations and their opinions alone. You know, you need to get your own people to look at the same thing to see whether or not they're being accurate and truthful in what they're doing. And it's a lot of work, and especially in these cases like this, where there's an arson and somebody ends up dead, it's a lot of work, but you have to be diligent. And the prosecutors and the judges have to be fair. You know, the prosecutors have a duty to try to get a conviction, but they have an equal duty to make sure that defendants get a fair trial. Same thing with the judge. And the judge that allowed this evidence of this other fire to come in at the last minute was a serious mistake. Serious mistake that really hurt the case. So there's all these different small pieces of puzzle that come together when you put them together. And now that we've done the investigation post-conviction, we see what has happened to Mario and why he shouldn't be in prison.
Well, you know, it's just, well, this puts law enforcement in I understand why now that Miranda rights had to be established there. You know, you have the right to remain silent. It ought to be you have the duty to remain silent, because these people, they arrest you and they don't care if you're innocent. It's just backwards.
Yeah, I think that people who get arrested have to be very careful. The police see their job as closing a case and finding a defendant. And sometimes, not always, they go overboard. And so for defendants who get arrested, the best thing that they can do is to invoke their rights, their constitutional rights, to ask for a lawyer and not to make a statement. They can always make a statement later if they want to. But often, and I've tried hundreds and hundreds of cases, and that without defendants making statements that they think are helpful that end up being hurtful, they wouldn't have never been charged. But
yes, sir.
It's an educational process, and for people who have bumped into problems with the law, they just need to understand this. So, like I said, Mario is an exceptional person. All this educational background that I talked about, his work. He's been a model prisoner from day one. He's never had a ticket in prison. And for people who know other people that have been in prison, it's almost impossible not to get a ticket. I mean, you can be standing in the wrong place.
Mm-hmm.
And he's done all this work in prison. He's a model prisoner. And here he is, 12 years later, trying to rectify something that should never have happened in the first place.
As far as I know, that's what we're supposed to be doing. And I want both of you. Like I told them that if Mario comes on, I would like his attorney also with him. Because, an attorney knows what you can and cannot say. And I don't want to be a detriment to the case. I would much rather just follow your lead. And you know what you want to talk about, and you know what you don't want to talk about. So I don't try to lead when I don't know how.
That's good advice. It's good advice. Leave it up to the lawyers to make the decisions about what to do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What you hire them for if you ain't gonna listen to them? So,
two questions here, sir.
We have a couple of questions.
Is there anything else that I can answer about either Mario's case or in general?
I think we have two questioners with their phones on. Go ahead, brother.
Sure. Yes, sir. I have a couple of questions. The first one is, did he have a court-appointed attorney?
The answer is no. He had a retained lawyer.
Because you stated that the previous interview was in the discovery. Did I misunderstand that? With the lieutenant, it was in the discovery, but they suppressed it?
Attorney Daley, are you still there? Did we lose him?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, yes, you heard me correctly that what was provided was a CD disc. And on it, it identified an interview with Mario with Officer Shea. In that disc, because it was the same day, there was a recording of the interview with Lieutenant Sims on the same day, but it was buried all the way back, way back. So what happened is Mario's father, Marvin, got the disc and he played the initial interview with Officer Shea. And then he kept playing it. There was all this dead time. And all of a sudden, this other interview with Lieutenant Sims that was never identified on the discovery list shows up. That's how we found it. And we found it years after the trial. And it was just because, as I said, his parents are really diligent. They work really hard. They're really supportive. And they Marvin actually found this recording that we then had transcribed and put in our submission to the integrity unit. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. I mean, it answers my question. It just seems like, well, that was a oversight on his attorney's part. But the other question I had, well, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Was there someone else? Okay, ask them. Let them ask.
Yes, Attorney Daley. There was, I'm an engineer at the television station, and one of the calls we got was that, without people trying to bombard the conference room, they wanted to make sure before you signed off with the Son of Man today that you let the public know that, if there's anything we can do in the process of helping and aiding. And they wanted to get that question in. And also, I wanted to confirm what the Son of Man mentioned, that yes, you are scheduled to bring your client, Mr. Mario Willis, on next week at the same time.
So, to answer the first question, I think what people can do is, first of all, go to the website that's been set up for Mario. And then the second thing that you can do is to write letters of support to our submission to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, the Integrity Unit. And I am looking up that information right now so that I can let your viewers and your audience know. It's the Conviction Integrity Unit, Wayne County, Michigan. If you go to the prosecutor's office, they have a separate website. The person who is in charge, who is an excellent lawyer with a lot of integrity, is Valerie Newman. It's ValeRieNEWMAN. She's the director, and I'm looking for her email address. Hold on one second, maybe I can find it quickly. But if you go to Wayne County, oh, here it is. Hold on one second. So here is her email address, VNEWMAN at WayneCounty.com. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay.
Yes, sir, it does.
Thank you.
Another question? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I have another question in regards to the letter that the Mr. Doss wrote that the judge allowed to be, what you said went to motive. Again, was that not his attorney's responsibility to challenge or have that letter excluded based on the law?
Yes, and actually he did. What happened is the prosecutor didn't bring up this letter that Dove sent to his judge, Judge Parker, who was not the presiding judge. On the day of trial, the prosecutor said that they wanted to bring this up, and the defense lawyer did. He objected on the grounds that he didn't know anything about this prior fire and any connection to Mario. And that's exactly all the information that everybody knew. So the police department knew about the previous fire because Mario told them about it. They looked into it. They didn't find any evidence of an arson. And so when the prosecutor asked for it to be admitted on the day of trial, to answer your question, the lawyer did object. But the judge made a huge mistake and said, I'm going to let it in. He shouldn't have never done that. He should have questioned why it was so late, number one, because there's a notice requirement for evidence outside of the case to be introduced. They have to file a notice, right, to put the defense on notice that they're going to seek to use this so that you can defend against it. They didn't do that. They waited until the day of trial. And the defense lawyer said, I don't know anything about this. And he let it in anyhow. What he should have done is said, look, what evidence do you have of this prior arson other than Mr. Dove? And if that would have been explained and explored by the prosecutor, and he would say, we don't have any evidence other than Mr. Dove saying it, then I think the judge would have said, a reasonable judge would have said, you're not going to be able to use that. And that became a critical part of the prosecution's case in terms of motive. They kept saying, this is an insurance job. They did it once, they're going to do it again. And we all know, don't we, that if a prosecutor gets up in a case and says, look, a defendant did this once before, and he's doing it again, what devastating effect that may have, when in fact it wasn't true.
And
I hope that answers your question.
And besides, you had said that they investigated it, the insurance company, before they paid off. They investigated it.
Yeah, they paid it off.
That it was not arson. They found that it was not arson.
Right. Not only the insurance company, but the fire department did not determine it to be an arson.
Right.
So how would a judge let that in based on somebody, as I said, who under oath before the trial said he didn't know anything about it and was mad about the fact that Mario was out on bond and he wasn't? So it's like, this is not an easy call. He should have said, absolutely not. That's not coming in. You violated the rules. You violated fair notice. You violated due process. I'm not going to let you do this.
And that
became an important part of the prosecution's case against Mario.
I don't even believe he wrote the letter to the judge. He may have signed off on it for somebody else. Anyway.
That happens too. Yep. It's not uncommon for inmates to have other people write, letters. I don't know if that letter was authored by him per se, but it was sent to the judge, and it did end up in the possession of the police and the prosecutor.
All right. Was that it? We had another question. Go ahead.
Yes, I had a question. You said that Darian Dove had a young lady with the name Felicia. Was she interviewed as well?
So the answer to that question is no. So when Darian Dove was initially investigated and he denied any involvement and then moved on to it was an accident, he specifically told them that he was with Felicia. And if you remember, I said in the 911 call, you can hear a woman's voice in the background. So Darian Dove is at a payphone. They had payphones back then, apparently. He calls into 911 and he says there's a fire, and they're talking about the fire trucks coming, and you can hear the woman in the background, right? So the investigators say to him, who's the woman? He says, it's Felicia. They said, well, who's Felicia? And he says, oh, I went to high school with her, but I can't give you her last name. And so then the police just drop the ball. They don't do any further investigation. They don't try to figure out where he went to school, anybody named Felicia, investigate her, because what happened is he kept saying to them he was with Felicia, and they accidentally set the fire to keep warm, but they didn't want to follow up on that because it would mess up with their theory that it was an intentional fire and that Mario had set it. So the police never did a diligent investigation of who Felicia was.
Well, I'm
it's mind-boggling.
Like I said before, and I'm say it again, I'm certainly happy that you own that case. And
I'm happy
we
too,
will-
for Mario's sake.
we will. Was there any more questions?
Yes, sir. Again, two things. One, just on the point that you were just making, when he made that initial statement to the police, I'm curious as to why Mario's attorney didn't follow up on that and have that as a rebuttal. And second, when Mario and his wife Megan's
The
defense
attorney on.
was that they were at dinner, was there any receipts presented in court as evidence of where they were for dinner and anything like that, or was it just the testimony, we were at dinner and then we went home and then she was dismissed as a witness?
I do not know what the defense lawyer did in terms of investigating Felicia. I don't know the answer to that. What I do know is looking at the transcript of the testimony of Mario and Megan about their alibi, they did simply testify to what they did. And I think that that's an important point. To the extent that no corroborating evidence was presented about going to dinner for date night, or even possibly Mario going out, he went and bought cigarettes for Megan that night before they went to bed. And that, I think that that's really an important point, because in any case, whether it's the prosecution or the defense, when a witness testifies to a specific incident, it is extremely important to find other evidence that supports it. So, as I said earlier, the prosecution didn't have any evidence to support what Darian Dove said about the prior fire. And on the other hand, for the defense, you want to confirm in any way, shape, or form that you've got receipts. They went to this restaurant. What's the name of the restaurant? When did you go? Here's the receipt. All of that is extremely persuasive to a jury, because a jury often will look at a witness and they'll listen to them and they'll say to themselves, this witness is telling the truth or not. And then they're going to start looking for other evidence that may support or not support that evidence. I hope that answers your question.
So anything else, Attorney Daley, that you want to share with us on this? The microphone is open to you. And not only at this time, I'm on the air 5 times a week. So anytime you want to just come in and share anything with us, this forum is available to you. Mr.
Well, I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to your audience about Mario's case. I hope that it's been informative, and that it's given some insight into Mario's case and why we believe, very strongly that he wasn't given the type of trial that he's entitled to. And I really do believe that in the end, Mario's going to be vindicated and that he will be released.
After talking with you, I believe it too. So,
well, I've convinced at least one person.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And Mr. and Miss Willis, they know me well, and they know that they can bring you on anytime. They get ready, and without even forewarning me. Just the forum is open to you.
Well, the Willis family is a beautiful family. They're so lucky to still be a family under these types of circumstances. And I know that Mario Mario wouldn't have survived this ordeal without his parents.
Well, we all appreciate you and what you are doing, and I just want to say thank you personally.
You're welcome.
So, if there's no one else that needed to ask him something. Oh, you want to give out your business number just in case someone else needs a good lawyer?
Oh, absolutely. So, people can reach me at 248-439-0132.
One more time.
248-439-0132.
All right. That's Attorney Daley. And,
yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this opportunity.
And thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a good day, sir.
You too. Bye-bye.
We
Son, man, we just run this station. This
yes, go
ID
right ahead.
That,
I was just
station ID and this ID that describes about Mario. It's only maybe a minute long.
I was just going to say, do that. Go ahead.
Justice for Mario Willis. Truth. Facts. Evidence. Mattered. Log into justiceformariowillis.com. Read for yourself. Justice for Mario Willis. Truth. Facts. Evidence. Mattered. Log into justiceformariowillis.com. Read for yourself.
That website is justiceformariowillis.com. I assume that's just like it sounds. JusticeFormariowillis.com. I want all of you to remember that if you are for right, it should be all the time for right, not just when right is in your favor. Sometimes right ain't in your favor, and it means you have to correct yourself, then still be for right. Do you understand? Okay. So, I was just thinking of, this the first time I met the attorney, or saw him, and it is refreshing to see that, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, there are white Muslims in America, and lots of them. A Muslim is a person who believes in justice. There's no such thing as a righteous, unjust man, a righteous man that does not believe in justice. And there's no such thing as a just man that you can claim is unrighteous. But righteousness and justice are Siamese twins. They go together. Do you understand? So as with us, we are copies of the earth, Most of us don't realize that the earth, like when I told you about the Garden of Eden, eternal day and eternal night, and it's always that way, you see. And we all have a dark side and we all have a light side, and many of us lean more to one side or the other. That's one of the reasons why up to this point we have been light. We've had light on the side of the earthy, the physical or the natural, and we've been dark spiritually. And so now another sun is rising, and we will soon be light on all sides. And so that's why the book teaches you that yet a little while, and the wicked shall not be. Do you understand? As the book says, when the wicked spring as the grass, they spring up as the grass. Let me show you something. When would you and I have ever thought that we would hear a member of the Congress of the United States, let alone members, threatening an investor in Congress to bring evidence in an investigation on an insurrection against the United States, and people in Congress threatening the people that if you bring this evidence, we gonna get in charge and we gonna bring something against you. Would you have ever thought you would have heard something like that? The wicked have sprang forth like grass. They just everywhere. You notice you see farmers plow their field all of the time and plow it under, and it looks so pretty because all that dirt and stuff is just rows and rows of dirt. After a while, you see grass just springing up out there. Huh? Look at what you're looking at in this country and throughout the earth. Just all types of things that you never thought you would see. You seeing it now. In the way of people just doing all types of and saying all types of things that you never would have dreamed you would have heard coming from people in positions of authority. But you see it. But Allah says, fret not yourself because of them. Because he's getting ready to get rid of them all. And I wouldn't have, I always wondered how that would happen. Really, if Allah say he can do something, I remember Abraham was talking to Allah one day, and he said, my Lord, show me how thou givest life to the dead. And Allah said, you don't believe? You disbelieve? And Abraham said, no, it's not that. He said, but that my heart might be at rest about that. Let me find that in the Holy Quran. You wouldn't think that these kind of conversations took place. Now, this is in the Holy Quran, chapter 2. And chapter 2, I was already there, just about. So let's see. It says when this is the 260th verse of the second chapter of the Holy Quran. It says, and when Abraham said, my Lord, show me how thou givest life to the dead, he said, dost thou not believe? And Abraham said, yes, but that my heart may be at ease. You notice, when someone says something to you that's so marvelous, that you never thought could happen, and you don't understand what they mean by it. So they say, what did you mean when you said this, or what did you? And so Abraham was Allah's friend. Remember when the Lord was getting ready to go to Sodom? He said, shall I hide from my friend Abraham what I'm about to do? You remember that? Okay. And so he shared with Abraham what he was about to do. So Abraham was Allah's friend, and he made his friend aware of how he do things. And so he told Abraham, he said, then take 4 birds, then teach them to hear your voice, to incline to you. Then place on every mountain a part of the 4. One over on this one until you run out of birds. And a lot of people thought they may cut them up into parts and scatter them on all of the mountains on the planet. No. He said, take one bird and set him on this mountain, another one on that one, another one on that one. He said, then call them, and they will come to thee flying, and know that Allah is mighty wise. Do you understand? Okay. Well, likewise, what did Jesus say? This gospel of the kingdom for what? The Holy Quran says it is a reminder to what? To all the nations. Why? We have taught all the nations to incline to hear the word of God. Huh? Now, the Son of Man is now standing before you calling to everybody. And the messenger used to say, fly to Allah. Huh? Yeah. So they even had a in the tales of the let me see, I don't forgot what they call them now. It was just on the tip of my tongue, and the Arabian Nights and that kind of thing. The little tales that they tell about flying carpets and all that kind of stuff. The flying carpet is actually the prayer rug. That's what they call the flying carpet, because when you pray, then your mind flies to Allah. There's that so that flying carpet, that's where they get that from. But anyway, so that was in the East, they those tales that they tell, little stories and whatnot. But that even was what you call prayer is a petition to Allah. You see, and so they knew that one day you would meet with Allah in person. And that is what you, every time you come in here with me, you are meeting with Allah in me. Allah is in his holy temple. Do you understand? And so, so you can make petition. Now, as they go to the stone and they kiss the stone and say, at your service. Well, all of those who come to me and they put themselves at my service, then they discover that by serving me, they actually wind up pleasing themselves. Because I'm not here to take misadvantage of you. I'm here to help you. I get the joy out of helping people. And because that's just the way I am. I enjoy that, and it gives me a happiness to help you be happy, and so that you helping me fulfill myself. So, well, very few people, if any, but very few people actually know their purpose for being born. But I know my purpose for being born, and I have found it, and I'm pleased, and it's like. Remember, Jesus said, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Well, this soul has found rest. As I'm not still seeking my purpose. I know my purpose. as surely in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. Well, they brought us here, the seed of Abraham, to make us forget Allah and to have us to serve them. If you notice, you look in all of the aspects of white people. I want you to pay attention to this especially. In all of your successes, in all of your scientific knowledge, and all of your scientific advancements, and all of your whatever field you go into, you always had black people somewhere in the background helping you, serving you. If we hadn't been there, you wouldn't have none of this stuff you got. You didn't want us to know that. Now, if that's not the truth, phone, tell me it ain't true. And stay on that line. This ain't me trying to make fun of you. This is me making sure that you no longer will get away with making us the butt of your joke. You through trivializing us in our minds. Truly been the inferior beings that you tried to convince us that we are, and were successful in it to a degree. If we were so inferior, why did you spend so much time and pains to come over there and steal us to bring us here? Come on now. Let's get real. I've seen you risk your life to go into a coal mine. But you went in that coal mine risking your life because it was something in there valuable that you wanted. I didn't hear you. Huh? You don't go risking your life challenging the ocean just to go get some inferior folks to come over, bring over here and mistreat them, when you had a whole nation of black people over here that you call Indians. You didn't have to come way over there to get us. If you had these, how come you didn't enslave them? They was here. You took the land from them, so don't say you couldn't have enslaved them. Why did you come get us? I know why you came and got us. Because we had civilization when you was walking around in a cave that we ran you into. And without us, you went savage. Without us, if we hadn't sent prophets from time to time, you wouldn't even lived out your time. Your own wickedness would have destroyed you like it's destroying you now. Your wickedness is destroying the United States of America. Your evil heart. You're going backwards, thinking you're going forward. But only this time, it's forever. Your bowing out is forever now. The minority leader of the House of Representatives standing up, committing obstruction of Congress. He talked to us on the phone. I'll let him type what he have to say. I didn't know it was in New Orleans. I don't think he's going to be able to come, because they ain't got no power down there. Okay. What was he typing? What did he want to know?
Well, he started out by saying, "You think you're Lord, Son of Man? There's only one Lord."
That's right. It ain't but one Lord. And that's me. I know you all been lied to by these white people talking about Jesus is Lord. Well, Jesus said the Son of Man is the Lord of the Sabbath day, the world of the wicked. Now, what do you see going on all over there? What you see down there in New Orleans? Jesus ain't the one standing up here talking to you while that stuff happening. The Son of Man is standing here talking to you. I tell you what you do. You go get the one who been teaching you and bring him to me. Don't you be out there call yourself trying to argue what you don't understand. Jesus said, "I go my way to him that sent me." He said, "And where I go, you cannot come." He also said, "I go to my Father, and you ain't going to see me no more." He didn't say, "I'll see you in 2,000 years." So, anyway, was there someone else that I said I'd let him do his little proffering?
Yes, sir. He also said that you want us to worship Allah instead of Lord.
And see, poor thing. Do you know the name Allah means the God. It means the Lord. You you don't know what the scripture says, so you even when you read it, you don't know what you're reading. So Allah is the truth. The Bible teaches you that the word is God. The Holy Quran says that it's because Allah, He is the truth. And the hour cometh when Allah will raise up those, the truth will raise up those that are in the graves of ignorance. Well, the truth, in order to raise you up, the truth had to be made into flesh. And that's where I come in at. You see? So I was told, "Son of man, take the book and eat it up." And once I ate up the book, then the word was clothed in flesh, in a garment that have to stay dipped in blood. And if you know anything about flesh, it is a garment that has to be dipped in blood or it will not live. And so that's me. And now the word is standing up here in flesh, raising up those who were spiritually dead. And the hour cometh when the dead shall hear the voice or the words of the Son of God, and they that hear shall live. Huh? That's written. So, what else he talking about?
He says you're talking about a certain group of people. And
I'm talking about a certain group of people. And what?
And then now he says Trump is the best thing to this country.
Yeah. Oh, I see. I see what we're dealing with there. Well, you go tell Trump to come help you there in New Orleans. Maybe he'll throw you some paper towels. Yeah. You see. Now, if you make one more word of mockery, I'm going to cast you into hell. Now, say something else in the way of mockery to me. I say, I know what this is about now. And that's why what's happening in New Orleans is happening. People like you. You ungrateful booger. I know where you gonna tell me you care something about Jesus and supporting a dog like Donald Trump. Now, if you think I'm bluffing, say something else crazy to me. You must ain't been looking at what's going on. There's some more hurricanes on their way to visit you. But that big mouth Negro in New York there. You heard from him? I know he ain't in a few days. He might be done drowned now. I told you, I'm sick of you. Ungrateful dogs. You know, they're so used to, you remember when they spit on Jesus and slapped him and said, prophesy now, who smoked you? They so used to mistreating messengers of God that they think they can do it to the Lord of them. You in for a rude awakening. You must have forgot. Vengeance is mine. And I'm going to pay you back. Somebody hold their hand out to you trying to be kind to you and trying to show you compassion, and you cussing them out. We used to have a saying, don't pour water on a drowning man. Well, that means you show compassion to people that's drowning, unless you intend to drown them. As it was in the days of Noah, Allah poured water on drowning people. Huh? Why? Because he's the doer of what he intends. I don't care how mad you get. Get mad. As the messenger said, Allah came to do you good. But if you will not accept the good, he will do you evil.
Sir, he says, you are God, not Lord.
To hell with you. Amen, amen, and amen. I told you don't say nothing else to me. Now, you know, I was wondering, like Abraham was wondering, that, you know, Allah, how you going to give life to the dead?
WGPR Detroit HD2.
You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit.
FM 88.1 WHPR, Highland Park.
WVIE 107.3 FM Charlotte, Amalia, Virgin Islands.
The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of WHPS, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.